Hey yo, what's up guys? My name is Hafiz and you're watching Fix Your Games. Now today I'll be reviewing the Mortal Kombat X FightPad for the Xbox 360 slash Xbox One slash PC, even though it doesn't indicate on the box, but that's fine because it works. Alright, so the games I've tested are on Xbox One. I didn't have time to plug it in onto my Xbox 360. Tested it on Xbox One, okay, and the games are Streets of Rage. Number one, you have to reconfigure the game controller options, because or else it wouldn't feel like how the game was configured back in those days. So after a perfect configuration has been done, I have to tell you that I'm pretty surprised that the FightPad worked pretty well with a Streets of Rage game. Then I've tested Auto Fighting on the Xbox One, which is a Neo Geo game. And I have to tell you, this game itself is actually quite hard. As you can see, for the first time ever, I actually managed to rip off King's clothes. So no issue there as well. And then moving forward, I've tested Virtua Fighter 2. No issues over here this game. But if you are used to playing the game with keyboard, or if you're used to play with an arcade stick, you might find that default button layout is a little bit weird. However, again, like I said, you can try to reconfigure it, and it may take some time to actually master this game with a controller, because for me, I don't really play a 3D fighting game with a controller. But however, the game works. Virtua Fighter 5, on the other hand, works perfect. I don't feel any awkwardness in it. I think the reason is because it was made using a controller in mind compared to an actual fight stick. Unlike Virtua Fighter 2. So Virtua Fighter 5 is fine. I've also tested King of Fighters 98. King of Fighters 98 is awesome. Alright, no doubt about that. And lastly, I've tested Mortal Kombat X. Mortal Kombat is all about timing if you want to do all the combos, so you gotta get used to the layout, given the fact that I've always been playing the game with an arcade stick or a keyboard, and it's been a very long time since I actually used a controller to play Mortal Kombat. Back in those days, I think the last time I used it was in 1997, so really have to spend some time getting used to it. But here's the thing, any games that I've tested on the Xbox One so far, I felt there is a very slight input delay. I do not know why. I've changed my TV to game mode. I don't know, there's just slight, not much, but there is. Trust me, okay? So moving forward to the computer, this controller is the best. The only thing is that you have to switch to the Xbox 360 mode. The Xbox One version just wouldn't work. I do not know why. Even for Razer Atrox, the fight stick, the Xbox One version of Razer Atrox doesn't work on your Windows 10. So be sure to switch the switch. Okay, so on the PC, I've tested King of Fighters 98 Steam version, the Ultimate Edition, and I find that the PC version is very timely accurate. The moment I press the button, it performs the action without the feel of any input delay. And if the Steam version with an overlay of everything works well, there shouldn't be any problem with any MAME emulator whatsoever. So King of Fighters 98 is awesome with this gamepad. And then I've of course tested Mortal Kombat X. Like I said, in the Xbox One version, there is a very slight input delay. However, that issue is not in the PC version. Now, I recall that the PC version has a lot of issues back then when the game was released, but I have to tell you right now that the game works best with a fight stick, with a keyboard, and with a controller. Okay, I do not find any problems with it. I find that the PC version is way much more smoother in terms of controls. Here's the funny thing, I decided to go also way back. Mortal Kombat 10 is awesome. Hit back to Mortal Kombat 1. Mortal Kombat 1 DOS version, of course, is emulated with a DOS box, managed to map all the keys, and I have to tell you, I am surprised that the game actually works flawlessly. I've set the configuration as same as Mortal Kombat X, and really, again, even on DOSBox, there is no input delay. The moment that you press the button, it just hits it on the spot, yeah. And then I tested Auto Fighting for the Sega Mega Drive and also Midnight Resistance using a K-Fusion emulator. There is no input delay or whatever lag. And lastly, I've tested the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Edition. Completed Street Fighter 2 World Warrior for the first time in my life. The arcade edition, yeah. I never ever completed the game. As you can see in the last battle, I really beat Bison's ass and I got an achievement for it. So we have a look at the games. Now let's have a closer look at the controller itself. I'm going to compare it to an actual Sega Mega Drive controller and Xbox One. So let's have a look. Okay, so now we're looking at a closer look on the FightPad itself, the Mortal Kombat X FightPad. There is a Warner Bros. Trademark and Mortal Kombat. Basically, it's made in China. Yeah, I do not know why nowadays all products made in China, but anyway, let's not talk about that. Here's the thing about the controller. It has a kind of a shinier finish. However, if you have a sweaty palms, you may leave some fingerprints on it. At the back, it doesn't have that. It's more matte finish. In front, it's a little bit glossy. And of course, the Mortal Kombat X or Mortal Kombat Dragon logo is here. I do not know if this thing can fade away. So far, I've been using it for I think about 1 week and it hasn't. Okay, but again, you know, it may after 2 or 3 years. The color is a little bit grayish and black at the back, and the Xbox logo button is here. It's gray. Okay, it looks a little white on it because of a flash, but in reality it's a little bit gray. And the start and select button is on this side. The right triggers are here. Okay, so forget about playing shooting games. This right trigger is not really a trigger anymore, even though it says RTLT, but it's not really a trigger, it's a button. The D-pad is actually feels good, I have to tell you that. However, I think it could help if the D-pad is a little bit bigger, because my thumb is big and sometimes I may move it to an extent that I do not want it to. You know, if you press down forward, right, down forward like that, out of maybe 10 times, 8 times I executed it perfectly. Yeah, okay. So take note of the switch here. This is what I'm talking about, the Xbox One and Xbox 360. Now this switch feels a little bit cheap. I do not know why, but you know, if this thing is broken, you're gonna be in deep shit. So far, in terms of looks, I have nothing much more to say. Now the weight is actually very similar to an actual Sega Mega Drive gamepad. Yeah, if you compare to the Xbox One, I have to say, of course, the Xbox One is heavier because there's analogs. It looks much more bulky. So yeah, no doubt about it, it's heavier in Xbox One controller. In terms of size, you do not need to compare to an Xbox One because Xbox One is like the Logitech Wingman or Microsoft Sidewinder, you know, back in those Windows 98 time. Yeah, as you can see, this is what I'm telling you about. Yeah, I don't notice this until now. As you can see, the Sega Mega Drive directional pad is actually longer. Even though it has the circles, yeah, this one doesn't, but it, you know, it rotates the same way. Now it's of course the same as the Xbox One, but then again, Xbox One, most of the time, if you are using the D-pad, it's for, you know, inventory or whatever shit. It's not really meant for fighting games much, and that is why they come out with all these weird gadgets to play fighting games, right? Alright, if you are expecting a kind of a sound that how the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis controller is making, let me try to let you guys listen to it. And then I'm gonna switch it to the Mortal Kombat. Now you hear that clickiness. Okay, yes, I do not know why, but they have some button mechanical to it. On top of that, I also find one con, that is actually the A and B, the spacing between the three buttons here in the Mortal Kombat is a little bit far, or maybe it's just the button is like too big. I was playing a game and I find it like it's a little bit too far compared to the Sega Mega Drive. As you can see, it's very narrow. Yeah, the gap, this one is wider. Yeah, so that could be a problem if you are not used to it, because in terms of textures, yeah, in terms of textures of the buttons, the Sega Mega Drive controller is rough. You can actually feel between one button to another. However, this one can be a little bit too flat. Okay, so if you're moving your hands fast, sometimes you may miss a button. But if you are used to using a controller, which most of you console gamers I'm sure are, you may not find it a problem. For me, I just need some time to get used to it because I'm a keyboard person. Okay, overall I have to say that this controller feels great. Okay, no doubt it has a little bit of flaws. Number one, I think it can help if it has a rumble to it, because the controller do not have any vibrations. Yeah, and number two, like I said, the buttons here are a little bit wider and the directional pad is smaller than expected. Okay, and those are my flaws so far that I think about the controller. Now about wireless thing, it can be a little bit of argument over here, because for me personally, I don't care if it's wired or wireless. However, I think for fighting games it needs a wire, because even if you see Razer Atrox, it has that is to reduce the input lag. Yeah, I'm sure most of you guys who know technical stuff knows about this. Some people may not find it convenient, but I have to tell you that the wire is pretty long. It's indeed very, very long. So overall, I'm quite pleased with how the controller is. I won't complain much about it. Again, it's just the sound, the width, the size of this, but the rest is pretty awesome. And oh yeah, one more thing, I wish that the start and select button is some way somehow in front of here instead of here, and it's too near. I mean, like, I don't mind if the select is here, you know, and the start is here. It's like side by side over here. Yeah, but yeah, it's just that weird on the Xbox One. I do not know why there's a little bit of slight input delay. However, I have to tell you guys that, you know, if you guys want to get this controller, make sure you are not satisfied with your current controller running on Xbox One. At the same time, you prefer controller over arcade stick, and only get it if you are playing PC most of the time. Because if you're on console, I'm sure by now most of you guys know that there is a limited number of fighting games, and on top of that, if you do not have a computer, you know, the usage of it is not really that useful. So I think that's all I have to say about the controller. Overall, it's a great, awesome, perfect controller, but then again, you know, it's all a matter of taste. How would you want to play your fighting games? Some people can actually play with this. If you guys are actually, you know, the veteran players of Nintendo, if you know that the old Nintendo has only 4 face button, and over here there are 2 buttons. So for those of you who actually played Street Fighter last time on a Nintendo most of the time, you may actually get used to in a PlayStation or an Xbox controller. It doesn't really matter to you. But for some, you know, some people don't really play on the NES, some people play on a Sega. So for me, I spent most of my childhood on a Sega Genesis or Mega Drive, so I'm more used to this kind of button layout. Yep, okay, so yeah, that's all I gotta say about this controller. So there you have it, guys. I've reviewed Mortal Kombat X FightPad. I hope you find this review useful, and for those of you who are fine playing fighting games with keyboard, stick to it. Unless you are like myself, I'm very comfortable playing any fighting games and Sega emulated games with keyboard. However, I always don't want to sit down. Sometimes I want to lie down and just relax a little bit, and, you know, lie down and use a controller and play. And that is one of the reasons why I actually bought the Mortal Kombat X FightPad, is to at least you know, get the actual feel of an actual how a Sega Mega Drive controller used to be. Yeah, and at the same time, you know, not really having all this, have to sit down on my desk with an arcade stick or keyboard to play games like Injustice, Mortal Kombat, or any other fighting games. Okay, so it's a very useful tool. I rated this 8 out of 10. So thank you for checking out Fix Your Games. My name is Ichio for DZ, and I'm signing off from YouTube.